Welcome to week number 7, where we're going to dive further into restaurant operations. So you've created your dream restaurant last week in our assignment, and now we'll think about how we operate that restaurant. And so you'll see some instructional content on front of house service and some thoughts there. There's a blog that I've referenced in order to think about steps of service. You'll just want to keep in mind that if you are the owner of the restaurant, maybe you have your own service standards that you'd like to employ. If you work for a company, a corporation, perhaps they have standards that they'd like to impose. I'd like to focus a little bit more on back of house, because oftentimes when we're eating in a restaurant as a guest, as a diner, we see some of the front of house service, and we already have kind of formed in our mind what makes good service and maybe service that has some opportunities. But back of house is super important to be able to have and not have menu items that are out of stock. Is super important for that front of house staff to be able to sell. So making sure that you're purchasing from reputable vendors, that you have enough stock on hand, that you're receiving the product correctly, that you're checking it for quality, that you're storing it properly. First items in are the first items out, so that you're rotating that stock and making sure that nothing goes bad or spoils. And then of course cooking it. And forecasting properly how many guests you think are going to come, what do you think is going to be the popular menu dishes, so that you have the right amount of things in stock. So after reviewing the content that I've provided to you and in the book, there is an assignment that I hope you'll enjoy, which is building your own restaurant too. And so in this assignment, you're going to be taking the information that you did in your first submission, your 3 menu items and pricing. And so when you submit this assignment, you're going to submit those 3 menu items that you've selected and the pricing from your first submission, and you're going to research the recipe to determine what ingredients are needed, what's the cost of those ingredients to create the dish, and then finally, what is your food cost percentage of each dish. And so it could be as simple as, pulling up an Excel spreadsheet that I have here and thinking about, maybe the menu item is a hamburger, and what are the things that you would need to consider for that hamburger patty, so a hamburger patty. How much does a hamburger patty cost? I don't know. And so maybe we're going to go to Safeway.com and we're going to see that the ground beef patties, there's 4 here, are $7.49 for the package. And so with that information, I say, okay, that's $7.49 for 4, but I only need 1. And so I'm highlighting this formula bar in case if you haven't used Excel and formulas, it can be a really quick way to be able to do some of the work for you. And so, on down the line, and I'm just going to put in some guesses here. If it's 50 cents for a hamburger bun and, mayonnaise, it comes in a very big jar. You maybe need, an ounce of it, right? So we're going to say, maybe 4 cents. I think maybe for all the condiments, we'll just do that as a placeholder. For lettuce, maybe it's 10 cents. For tomato, we'll do 10 cents as well. Cheese, I think, might be a little bit more expensive. And then depending on what kind of cheese you're offering, we'll say 35 cents. And so what I've done is I've used here, for one hamburger, if these are the menu items or the things that we're including, I've created a formula so it adds up all of these numbers here. And if we're selling the hamburger for $12, that would make our food cost 25%, which is a pretty decent food cost. I would say this though, is your hamburger that's selling for $12 just a hamburger, or does it have French fries with it as well? So you may need to add in here other accompaniments if that's what your menu item was intended for. And I've done a couple of others. Here I can show you an example of pot stickers where I kind of decided to break it down so that I had the cost per ounce of each of the ingredients and then how many ounces I needed. So it came to a total of $9.44 when I was making a batch of 48 pot stickers, but my menu item was only going to have 6 in a serving. So I took the total 944 to make 48 and divided it by 6 so that I was able to get how many how much it would cost me for making one order. And if I was selling it for $2.75, that made my food cost percentage 43%, which is a little bit higher. So this can be helpful in determining if we need to raise or lower prices, expand or reduce the serving portions. And I did it for spaghetti as well, where I have the cost per unit, and then how many ounces that equated to. Here, it was pretty expensive at 56%. So that told me that if I was selling a plate of spaghetti for $18, but the menu ingredients that I had were a little bit more expensive. I want to point out here, you think about noodles and you think about red sauce, but I was making the sauce from scratch and I got really fancy. And so I had a recipe that had, it called for beef and pork and veal. So equal parts beef, pork, and veal. So one item to think about, right? If I wanted to still do this dish, but I wanted to make it a little bit more affordable for myself, so that I wasn't spending so much on ingredients, maybe I just do a beef and pork blend, because that veal was pretty expensive. It's double the price of the other items. So just a thought there. The other one I did was a tuna roll, right? I found a recipe for a tuna roll and costed it out. The recipe I had served 2, but I was just gonna do 1 serving, so it was about a 23% food cost. So as you can see, able to use Excel, able to use really anything that you would like. I went to Safeway.com. You could go to Costco or .com or just your own understanding of ingredient prices. So that's going to wrap it up for our week 7, which is restaurant operations, and really thinking about those menu items that you designed in your first phase for designing your restaurant, and now looking to see how profitable that's going to be. So I hope you enjoy this second part of the assignment. I think that also I have reminders for the food and beverage assignment, which is going to be due next week on the 13th, as well as further out that mind map assignment that's due in November. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I hope you have a great week ahead. Thank you.